It's not a financial decision, it's an emotional decision, it's an artistic decision.
Because the reality is, running your business full-time, it also comes with a price tag. You know, a lot of things that chop that number down where your net might be 50% of your gross.
The 3 milestones you want to be looking at are, have you doubled your gross revenue? Are you losing money by not being full-time? If you're generating enough leads and closing at a high enough rate to replace that income.
I'ma get right in my bag. Why you gonna try to get mad? Everybody wanna keep up. Don't you know I move too fast? I'ma zip right past. Drip all on my swag.
Hey guys, welcome to the Wedding Film School show. Again, I'm here with Bobby. We're going to be doing part 2 of our series on going full-time. Last episode, we talked about don't quit your day job. You should go back and check it out. We give you a couple of reasons why we don't think going full-time in wedding filmmaking or wedding photography is the end-all, be-all, and some really good reasons why I think you may not want to do it. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I'm not sure, I would say go listen to that episode and kind of think through, is this really right for you? But if you've kind of come to that conclusion that you're like, no, I really need to quit my job, well, that's what this episode's about. We want to give you some insight into some reasons why you definitely can't, we want to give you insight, not just into why you might want to be a wedding filmmaker and why you might want to be full-time doing it, but really, what are some numbers and ways you can look at your business that will help tell you that it's actually really time? Because for some of you, it's not about if, it's when. You're going to go full-time. It's not if, it's when. And so for some of you, you might look at these numbers and say, yeah, I'm going to go full-time, but maybe next year. So Bobby, how you doing today?
Good. Good. Yeah, no complaints.
Yeah.
I like this topic a lot. I really like talking about also, about reasons not to go full-time. I thought that was a pretty interesting conversation. So,
yeah.
And this one, I think, like you said, we have a little more like tangible, check these boxes, numbers that you can dive into and whatever. So I think this will be really helpful for a lot of people who want to go full-time or are considering it. So.
Yeah. If you are listening to this, I do want to encourage you guys. We got a bunch of partners. If you go to the YouTube description or on our websites, things you can do to support the show, and it really means a lot. Thank you guys. A lot of you guys are buying things through affiliate links. It really helps us. Another thing, we want to always give you things that help us, but also help you. And one of the things that it's actually, I think, going to be expiring by August 15th. So I wanted to point this out to you guys. Wedding Film School is working with MusicBed, and we're going to be giving you 2 months off new subscriptions to the MusicBed, which is, in my opinion, the premier wedding filmmaking music licensing platform.
It's the best.
I think it's the best, and they have a wedding subscription license, and if you use the code 2 months WFS, you get 2 months free, which is a really good deal. I want to say it's like $140 off.
Yeah,
which is a really solid deal. So if you're listening to this before August 15th, 2021, head over to the MusicBed's website, musicbed.com, and there's a...
We'll link it down below.
Yeah,
if you're listening. But.
If you're listening, no, we won't link it, but you can just... I would encourage you, if you're listening, go to our YouTube channel, watch our videos. But we have a description, there's a link below, and you can click on it, and the key is you got to make sure you enter the wedding subscription, otherwise it won't really work. But when you do that, just use the code 2 months WFS and you'll get 2 months off. But without further ado, let's talk about this. Let's talk about going full-time. What do we mean by that, Bobby?
Yeah, I think we kind of addressed this in the last one too, but full-time for us means that your main source of income, basically you are relying on wedding filmmaking.
Yep.
It's not a certain number of wedding films. It's not a certain threshold of dollars that you're making. It's just like, your life is sustained by, for the most part, wedding filmmaking.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that, and it might even, if we want to get really particular, it might be full-time video production. Might be a better way to say it. Because maybe some of you guys are doing, some commercials,
I do some commercial stuff.
All that stuff.
Yeah. But
in general, you're quitting this job. You're no longer doing something that isn't video. You're doing video full-time, and in our case, wedding filmmaking. So for many people, this is a dream that they have, and it's a really cool dream because I think it's one of the few industries where you can hop in and just immediately become your own boss with very short amount of time. If you got the skills and you're willing to do the work, you can do it. And so even though we had an episode about not going full time, I think at the end of the day, being able to go full time as a solopreneur and making it be art. I mean, what other art job can you just like literally be like, hey, I'm quitting my job and I'm painting full time?
Yeah. Some people.
Some
but it's
people.
I don't want to say easier, but way more likely to do it in something like wedding.
I would think it's easier because there's like a
Probably.
huge market and it's like a built-in market. And I would think like painters, there's so much like, oh, I like this painting. I don't like this painting. It's not, is it a good painting or a bad painting?
Yeah.
And so I think it's a cool opportunity and a cool line of work. And so you should want to do it. I think the money is good. You can make a lot of money shooting wedding films. You can maybe not become rich, but you can easily replace your income shooting wedding filmmaking. There's a lot of people who are making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year who could replace that and then some and run their business very easily in wedding filmmaking, which is really cool, which is, I think, one of the best reasons. If you're looking at it, I would hope, we were kind of talking last episode, Bobby, we talked a lot about being bivocational, and a lot of people, they might be making, I know some people who make a good amount of money, like a lot of money, and they also do wedding films on the side. Some of you guys are like, hey, I just got out of college and I'm making like 30 grand, 25 grand. I'm not making a lot of money. And I think for a lot of you guys, it's not going to be like that hard to replace your income, and you're going to enjoy the job a lot more. That was probably your case, right, Bobby?
Yeah. I mean, I basically got out of college and was pretty much full time. So, and I didn't work another salary job before that or anything like that. I mean, if I was in some entry level position, like, it definitely would have been the move for me to switch into wedding stuff.
Well, I mean, what other kind of job can a college kid there are, of course, jobs, web designers and all kinds of jobs, but it's one of the few things where like a 21-year-old kid can immediately make $50,000 of their own money. Yeah. Their own business.
Just get out and crush with the ability to, within 3 years, I mean, if you do it right, you could be making $150,000 in a few years, So
yeah, totally.
I mean, depends on lots of variables, but like there's probably not too many career paths where you're going to get in at 35, 45, 50,000 as a salary
and your own boss.
I mean, there's plenty of other reasons why it's great, but
it's a great
thing
too,
which we talked about in the last episode.
Yeah, go listen. But I think for most of you guys, like it's going to be a great decision to go full time, but it's not something you should make lightly. So we wanted to kind of pave the way so you can think about it, because there's probably a couple types of people who are listening to this and thinking like, shouldn't I, right? There's people who have full-time jobs that pay very well and either don't like the job, aren't satisfied in it, or think, hey, this might pay me well, but I know that I can do better in wedding filmmaking. I can replace this income. I just, that's their situation. They have a great job, but they're looking maybe great, by the way, in terms of pay, but they're looking at maybe doing art for a living and they think they could replace it. And then I think there are people who are like typically probably on the younger side who maybe haven't kind of been established in a career, but are just discovered wedding filmmaking. And really like the stakes are a lot lower for them in terms of like, if I quit my job, maybe
it doesn't really matter. You try this for 3-4 years, you're still going to be, 23, 24 at the end of it. If you want to pivot and do a different career,
they're doing like kind of entry level positions, who knows? Maybe they're on a career path at their job. Maybe they're just like Bobby Burns, the pizza delivery guy who we referenced.
He's a cool guy.
He is a cool. I actually that was one of the jobs I had that I loved the most. I loved delivering pizzas.
I never delivered pizzas.
It was so freaking fun. It was so fun because like I like music and podcasts and stuff. So I'd be driving in my, just listening to music, listening to sports all day. But like, if I just quit my pizza delivery job, who cares? I can just get another pizza delivery job. Like people, if you're maybe on a career path, I think it might be a little like, if you're like, okay, I'm making 40 grand now, but like, I'm in a good place. If I keep this up, like I'm going to get all my bills paid. I'm going to get healthcare and all that. Like, I think that person is one person maybe early in their career. And then there's the third person, which is they have nothing really established. They're kind of just like They just need to get their bills paid and they're happy. You know, it's like establishing a career down a career path that could be very good. And if they keep doing it, or like literally like Bobby Burns, he went to college, but like he didn't really ever, for you, it was always an upward mobile move to shoot wedding films.
Yeah.
There was no real question, should I do this? It was like, clearly I should
just
do
kind of
this.
rolled into it, and it was, it wasn't, it would be silly of me to not pursue that at that time.
Yeah. And so, like I said in the last episode, I get a salary from another job. In full disclosure, I am bivocational. I have chosen not to quit the job because I love doing it. And the money is good. Not amazing, but good. And they're comfortable with the compromises I have to make because of I've worked there so long, 15 years, that they're okay with me doing wedding films. So it's a good relationship. It works out well, and I will do it as long as I can. That's the choice I've made. I still consider myself to be a full-time wedding filmmaker. Bobby, you're full-time video production. You don't have any other source of income, right?
Nope.
So, yeah, we're two different people in two different places. So we're offering this perspective, I think, from having both different perspectives. And I think we've talked through these 3 reasons. And I think coming from different places, we would both agree these are 3 good reasons why you will want to go full-time and kind of boxes you should check. So the first reason that I got to stop saying reason. So let me just restate
Sign.
that. Yeah, let me restate that. So what we did is we came up with 3 kind of milestones that you can look at in your own business to determine, is it time to go full-time, right? Because like I said before, some of you guys, it's going to be if, not, like I said before, some of you guys, it's when and not if. You're going to do it, but maybe it's not the right time. And hopefully this will help you determine, like, this is what I need to do to go full time. Like, all I got to do is hit these milestones and I'll be ready to go. And by no means are we like the only authorities on this. This is just the things that we would say. And
I think like we mentioned last podcast was like when we kind of like, pitched this idea was like, we don't really see a lot of people giving you, something solid, something concrete that you can look at and say, okay, I might be there. I might be ready to go full time.
Yeah, a data-driven thing.
Yeah, there are other reasons or other scenarios where you could go full time. It's not like you have to fall into one of these 3. I mean, you can go full time without any of these things being in place. It's just a riskier decision.
Well, let's talk about the bonus. So we're not recommending this because at the end of the day, you have to make this decision. But for many of you guys, going full-time is not a financial decision. It's an emotional decision. It's an artistic decision. We're not talking about that today because ultimately I can't make personal decisions for you.
Yeah, like that could outweigh these. You could say,
Totally.
I don't care. I'm going to pour 2 years of my life into building this up. I have only shot 10 weddings. I don't have consistent income from it, but that's what I want to do.
Or I hate my other job. I don't care how much it pays. I would rather make half as much money. Like, that's a valid decision. It's not anything that I can...
That carries weight. It's just that we can't... Those aren't... we can't quantify that emotional decision for you.
Well...
So we're here to look into the...
I would also tell you, like, I'm older. I work with young people. Maturity will kind of talk you off a ledge from time to time. And so I'm not your dad. I'm not your mentor. If I am your mentor in a distance, well, thank you for considering me that. But like at the end of the day, I would never tell, like if anyone came up to me and said, financially, it's a terrible decision. I don't have any demand. Like if I say to you, like, hey, Bobby, you want to go full time? Oh, yeah, I do. Why? Well, I hate my job and I hate my boss. Okay. Tell me about your business. Okay, well, I shot 7 weddings last year. I got 14 inquiries, and I think if I can book all 14 of those inquiries, then I'm gonna double, and I can afford.
Yeah.
I would tell you like that's stupid, Bobby. Don't do that. Yeah.
From a purely facts, we're not saying.
I would tell you from already, like me personally as a mentor, I would tell you don't do it.
I would tell you don't do it too.
That being said, I'm not your boss. You're your own boss.
Exactly.
So we're not addressing those things. wisdom is wisdom, but at the end of the day, who knows?
You know your personal situation better than we do.
Yes. So that being said, here are the 3 mile markers you're going to look at, and we're actually going to have a little downloadable for you if you want to download and kind of process this on paper. A lot of you guys are that way. You want to put your numbers down and actually look at them. So the first kind of milestone you want to be looking at, that at least based on Bobby and I's opinion, that's pretty easy to quantify, pretty easy to look at, that will help you determine, is it time to go full time, is has your revenue from wedding filmmaking, gross revenue, doubled the amount of money you need to live? Could be your salary, could just be amount of money you've determined you're okay to live off of and pay all your bills.
Or what you want to make right now or something like that.
Yeah, whatever that is. Most likely for many of you, it's just going to be how much you make at your other job. That's a good place to start.
Yeah.
So if you're like making 30 grand, 25 grand working at a grocery store, I talked to a kid about this. I said, listen, what's your goal? He said, I want to go full time. He wanted a mentorship. And so I said, you want to go full time? That's great. And I said, how much money do you make at your other job? He told me how much he made. It was something like $27,000. I said, that's easy.
Yeah.
All you got to, you can do that. And for many of you guys, if you've already hit that point where you're like, say you make 30 grand and your business is pulling in 60. Why do I say double, Bobby, and not just the amount of money you're making at your other job?
Yeah, because the reality is, and this is why a lot of people fall short over time, because you don't account for this, is that running your business full time also, it has great benefits and tons of things you love about it. It also comes with a price tag. There are a lot more expenses. You are paying a lot in taxes. There are, a lot of things that chop that number down where your net might be 50% of your gross.
Easily could be 50%.
Yeah.
Especially at the
less.
beginning of your business when you're not making as much profit.
Yeah.
The thing I'll tell you too is not only do you want to have all these expenses covered, but you want to have money to cover when the business isn't doing as well.
Yep.
So if you got if you make 30 and your business is pulling in 60, okay, I wouldn't pay myself 60.
Yeah.
I would pay myself 30.
So, yeah.
You can't, but even if I say after all my expenses and my taxes, I still had I had 45.
Yeah.
For the first year of my business, maybe the first 3 years, I would still pay myself 30, and I would take 15 and I would put it in the bank.
Yep.
And I would rainy day that money, because you never know when the money could dry up, and the money is seasonal too. So we're a cash flow business, right? So there are seasons of great cash flow and there are seasons of low cash flow. So I will just tell you, if you want to have more detail about that, you can go pay for a coaching session and I'll talk you through all the numbers. We did a lot of budgeting on it in our budgeting podcast. There's a lot of resources we give out about helping people assess their financial situation. Just trust me on this one. When your business is doubling, that's a good sign, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's a good hey, you're probably at the point where your business income could replace or come close to replacing your salary at your other job. And the nice thing that comes along with that is that most likely, if you're at the place, so you're doing 15 weddings, I don't know, $3,000 a piece, I don't know, whatever it is, or $4,000 a piece, you've doubled, your salary elsewhere. The reality is when you go full time, the prospect of that is that you have a lot of room to grow further in that. So
charge more, shoot more.
Yeah. And what's a typical raise? Is it 1% or something like that?
I think the average person makes over 5 years, maybe 7% cost of living increase.
Yeah, I mean, you could make that you could increase 7% in 3 months after you go full time. So there's part of it is hey, I'm at this point where it's safe to do that transition. And the reason I want to do that transition, it might be for creative reasons, it might be whatever, but on the financial side specifically is that there's also a lot more upward trajectory in a sooner, it's a steeper climb.
And don't get me wrong, by the way, I don't think it'll cost you double your salary to run your business. If you make 60, it shouldn't cost you 30 grand in taxes and expenses.
No.
I'm just saying it's a good marker.
Be safe.
And I like conservative numbers. I don't like aggressive numbers in terms of recommendations. Me personally, If I was just taking, like, I would do it for less. If I believed in myself and I could look at my numbers really well, I'd be like,
yeah, I mean, that's an intangible, right? The like, hey, I know my work ethic, because that's big too. I mean, what is your work ethic? Like, some people will hit the grind and they'll work 10-hour days every day and they'll be out there, hustling. And some people won't. And, just know who you are.
Yeah, and it's just a guideline. It's just a guideline. And if you're wondering, if you check this box, it's like, okay, that feels good. Like,
it's a safe guideline.
Yeah, if you're wondering, can I afford to do this? My guess would be, you can afford to do it.
Like, at those numbers, we would stand behind that. We would be pretty surprised if you couldn't afford to do that, if you were making
if you're telling me, like, I love doing this, if I could do it and only do it, I would be happy, and those are your numbers, I would probably say, you should with those numbers. The next one I think is a little more intangible, but I do think it's really important, which is, could you make more money with wedding filmmaking if you just had more time to make wedding films?
Yeah.
That I don't think the answer there is as straightforward as it seems, because I think a lot of people would not be willing to shoot more than 20 to 25 weddings, and a lot of people couldn't necessarily just charge more money than they currently are. There are plenty of people who are shooting 20 weddings at $4,000 and they couldn't book more and they couldn't charge more.
Yeah.
So I don't think the answer is necessarily as obvious as it seems. Like, well, of course, if you had more time, you could make more money. I don't think that that's totally true. How could someone know that if they had more time to put into their wedding filmmaking business, that they can make more money? What are just some, like, within the sub milestones within the milestone?
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, there is well, yeah, I mean, we talk about this year specifically, right? Like, how many weddings this year and next year, because of COVID stuff and whatever, like, we're getting bookings. I mean, you guys are probably more so because you shoot
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We're shooting today, a Thursday wedding.
Yeah. I have in this year and next year, I have 2 or 3 weekday weddings.
Yeah. So if you're getting a lot of inquiries,
I mean, you could take the job off or take the day off, whatever, but like,
maybe some people can. If you're getting a lot of off weekend wedding inquiries and you're leaving that money on the table, that's a good sign that maybe if you had more time, you can make more money. I think another good one is because everyone has limits. Yep. You can't just work infinitely. And if like, if I only just had a little bit more time to recover, I could take double the amount of weddings, or I could take 30% more. I would be comfortable shooting a lot more if I didn't have all this crap going on in my life, which would equal, for you, maybe if you're shooting 10 more weddings and you're charging, that might equal $4,000 or $5,000 or $50,000 that you're leaving on the table. Hopefully you're not shooting for $400, but it could be that, like, you have a number in your mind of how much you're willing to do, that if you didn't have another job, you'd be willing to do more. If you have that number in your mind, might be time.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you're currently bivocational right now, right, and you're doing this, like, you might only have the threshold for, like, your cap, your absolute ceiling might be 15 weddings.
Yep.
Right? And if you're not working 40 hours a week now, you have more time, maybe that does go up to 25.
I think, like, people who aren't...
There's a reasonable assumption to have a jump in that number.
I think people who aren't doing luxury...
That is another question, but...
Yeah, I think if people who, and we'll get to that one next, the booking and the marketing, but I think people who aren't doing super luxury, I think 25 to 30 weddings is the standard for most people. 25, 30 weddings, and the more established you get, maybe you trim that down because you're able to charge a little more and whatnot. Yeah. But I think 25, 30 weddings is like a pretty standard amount for a full-time wedding filmmaker, and the reason I say it's not as cut and dry is I actually think a lot of part-time people could easily do 20.
Especially if you're outsourcing stuff.
Yes, especially. Yep. And so I think a lot of the question comes down to how much of a difference on my business would jumping from 20 to 30 have? Would I be willing to do it if I didn't have my other job? If the answer is not much of a big difference, I don't think I could book it, and I'm not even willing to. Maybe it's not a cut and dry decision to go full time. But if you're like, I love shooting wedding films, I would love to shoot 10 more. I just can't. And I definitely could. Then like, okay, not being full-time it's hurting my ability to grow this business. And I really should consider going full time because I'm leaving 50 grand on the table.
Yep.
And I would like it and I could do it. You know,
I think another one too we talked about, and this is kind of a smaller one, is like, you know, if you want to target this specifically, or if you want to be available for destination work, you know, it's gonna be a lot harder to do that, and especially to do it consistently or frequently if you're working a full-time job.
yeah.
You know, you've got a limit on the amount of time off you have from that full-time job.
The tricky part about that is I have a hard time really recommending that path to people because in order to get destination work, you typically need a portfolio of destination work.
Yeah. I
So-
mean, it's a more intricate, you know,
But I could
conversation or
imagine
whatever, but-
that a part-time person maybe got one or two opportunities because I think this person exists. You get one or two opportunities, you go and shoot the weddings, you still have your other job. And because they were great and they were awesome, people are calling you left and right. They're saying, oh, I want you to go to Cabo because you shot this great Cabo wedding. And you keep getting invited to Cabo and you can't go to Cabo.
Yep.
It could be that like most of your inquiries are destination or adventure elopement or something like that. And at the end of the day, like there are people who they're part-time and that's the situation they're in. And they really need to think through, hey, if I'm going to really take this thing where it needs to go, I got to quit.
Yeah.
You
And
know-
you have to assume too that Cabo wedding that you turned down because, oh, I already used my 2 weeks of vacation, I can't swing it, whatever. Like it's more, I mean, I think you agree with this, maybe not, but like to me, it's more than just that Cabo wedding. Like that's a paycheck. It's $5,000 or whatever. It's a week, you can go spend a week in Cabo, whatever. But it's also every wedding that you would book because that one also turns out great.
That's
It's another
200% all it
marketing
is.
opportunity.
I mean,
exactly.
if you're chances
And that's
are
that growth that you're talking about. That's how you get there too. So you know.
chances are there's a planner at the wedding, and planners don't want to work with new people every wedding. They want to work with people they know, and like all this stuff adds up to each other, and so it can be a little tricky because I don't want to tell people straight up like, do you want to become a destination wedding filmmaker? Like I feel like everybody thinks they want to do that. I think many people do not. We're actually going to be having films by Stanton Giles to talk about that exact topic soon. So if you're interested in wedding filmmaking and making like destination wedding filmmaking a big part of your life, we're gonna have Stanton on, and where he's gonna talk about do you really want to do what are some of the negatives, what are some of the positives, but I think in general, if you're turning down a lot of destination work, especially if you're turning down work, I can tell you like if you want to do it but you've never done it, I'm not really sure it's great to necessarily quit your day job because I think you could want to do all the weddings in the world at Lake Como and it doesn't mean crap until you
Yeah.
get an
Until you can,
opportunity.
right?
There's
Yeah.
no way to just strategically get into Lake Como. Like I think a lot of us who get in those positions are like, I don't really know. I got lucky. You know?
Yeah, I think that's 100% realistic. Like, I've done a decent amount of destination work. I don't know what the measurement is, right? And a lot of it, I would say, is like, yeah, it's luck, right? Like, I mean, it doesn't mean you can't work towards it, but there's some amount, and I think anybody would say this, like, you can be intentional, but there's some amount of the right person sees your work, right? That connection, whatever that connection is, it exists. They see your work. They have the budget for you. They're getting married in, like, you know, outside of the U.S. or outside of the state or whatever you consider destination. Like, they connect with you. Like, there's just so much that has to go right where I don't think anybody, even those who are specifically doing destination, would say that, especially at the beginning, that there's not some luck involved.
They just literally just said destination and they typed it on their website, and SEO, of course, just forced it to happen.
Exactly. That's the magic of SEO.
One more way that you might be leaving money on the table, and really I think goes into this second milestone as well, is if you know, like, hey, look, if I had more time to put into this, my customer's experience would be so much better. I could elevate the product so much more. And you have some tangible ways that you could, not just like I would magically become a better shooter because I would get to practice more. I mean, I think that would be some of it.
There's a little bit of truth to that, but that's,
But I think if you have some tangible customer experience situations that either you're not delivering on currently, that you think you could do better on, that would actually move the needle, like what are some of those things that you think if you were full-time, you might deliver at a higher level than if you're just showing up 6 o'clock every day is when you're on the
Yeah.
clock. And like some days you're like, I'm too tired. And other days you're like, okay, I'm going to do it. But either way, how has full-time maybe elevated your customer experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the what it boils down to is customer experience can be a priority for you. Like if you're working a salaried full-time 40-hour-a-week job, ultimately that is your priority. Like I'm not saying that you automatically give your customers a bad experience, but when your client experience can be your priority, everything can revolve around that. And I'm a huge believer in that. I think I talked about this at one point, like I completely changed my collections and the way they were structured with like to revolve around client experience. Like I took hours out. I didn't want to do by hours anymore because I felt that was negative. Those were like the only negative experiences I was having or that my clients were having. I think what it boils down to is you can focus on your client experience. So whether that is, responding promptly to questions, being able to hop on, and not be tired, right? To be your full self in phone calls or meeting up for a drink or coffee or whatever you might do.
I mean, clients do not care about my schedule.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Like I have to work with their schedule.
They do not care that you are working 40 hours a week elsewhere. In fact, they might care in a negative way.
Yes.
That's the only way they might care. I think also one of the other things that, I mean, I don't know, you could go into client gifts if you want to do that. You could dive in more to your delivery method, making sure, that's dialed in and they get the best experience there. There's just a whole lot of stuff that you can do along the way, right? From the minute your client sends you an inquiry on your website, and I mean, let's not even get into websites and social media and all that, which could generate more, more revenue or more inquiries. But the minute that somebody inquires with you, all the way up to final delivery or, something, I don't know if it extends beyond final delivery, but from that start to that finish, you basically now have potentially 40 hours a week, and I don't think you need all of that, but some amount of time that you can dive into really dial in what that whole experience looks like.
Well, and people act like we are all like, oh, we're all best friends in this industry, but the fact remains, if I was in your market, me and you would be competition.
Yeah. It can be friendly competition, but...
For sure, with ethics and honor, but at the end of the day, I'm still competing
I want that job.
Yeah, I'm still competing for the same clients, and at the end of the day, somebody who's out there might be razor's edge. Like your films are very similar, but their customer experience was way better.
Exactly.
The emails were prompter.
Yeah. Or it could be something dumb. It could be like, hey, we talked about this in another video. We had another video coming out about it, about they use a CRM. Everything was digital, online. It was easy.
Everything was easier. Their branding was a little nicer. Yeah. Their website was more up to date. Who knows? Little things that that fall through the cracks.
That's the real question is, hey, if I'm working a full-time job, I can show up on Saturday, I can shoot a wedding, I can edit your wedding video, and I can deliver it to you. But what are the things that you aren't putting time into because you're working elsewhere? And that's going to be social media, your website, your inquiry process,
your contract actually being up to date. You're going to forget.
Yeah, there's so much stuff like that. That's those small things where it's I can get by another season without addressing that. And maybe you can, but it's probably limiting your growth or your...
Well, if you can tangibly, let's just make it tangible. If you can sit down and write down a list of things, bad experiences you think clients have had that had to do with your time, it might be time to consider looking elsewhere.
Yeah.
If you can
I would do everything I could. Like I said, that's what I think. Me personally, I think that's what things should revolve around. And I would do everything I could to address those things. Because I think client experience ultimately is the top priority.
The last little milestone that you want to be looking at is more of a marketing thing. And in a lot of ways, I think this is the most important. Because as much as it matters, the money side, sustainability is the big determination on whether you should go full time. Because let's be
the long term.
Yeah.
Big picture.
The third milestone is, am I receiving, and we'll just use, my number would be am I receiving 10 times more leads than I am willing to book, and am I closing at least a 10% rate?
Yeah.
I
or
think
10 times more leads than generates that number that you need. Right?
Yes. Yeah. So like, say you're like, I want to shoot 20 weddings.
Yeah. 20 weddings is what I need to make the amount of money that I want to make, etc.
Yep. That's the number. I want to make 20. Or I want to do 20. I need to do 20. At least. Maybe, yeah. And I think it's the at least number, by the way, because you definitely can do more. Sure. But anyway, I need to do at least 20 weddings. I'm getting 200 inquiries a year, which I don't think is a crazy amount. 200 inquiries is a good amount, but it's not crazy. It doesn't require this massive marketing budget or anything like that. It's just, it's a healthy, solid, established business. I think 150 to 100 and 200 on the high. I think if you're not getting 100 leads in a year, I would tend to say like
it's another question.
You're probably not really ready to go full time because that's not massive demand.
Dangerous. Yeah.
Dangerous. I mean, maybe you could get away with it, but regardless.
I think that's what we're saying ultimately is like we're giving you numbers that are conservative.
And they're based. There's a lot of factors in here. Close rate. Where do your leads come from? Are you advertising? Are you not advertising? Are you plugged in with planners? Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but you want 20 weddings. You're getting
200 leads.
Inquiries.
I would say you want 200 leads, and you want because then you only need to close on 10% of those leads.
Yep.
I wouldn't necessarily. I think really high close rates. I've heard some people brag about them, and I'm like, not.
There's a certain danger to that too.
Big danger.
Yeah.
Like if you're closing 40, 50% of your leads, and then I tell you like that's really high, and you're like, no, it's great because they're all. I shot this wedding and they had 20 sisters and all of them have booked me.
Yeah. That's great.
They're not going to.
It's false numbers.
Yeah. Enjoy when they have kids in 22 years.
It's good paychecks, but it's not. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but there is something to be said about book. Like you can book, like we're talking 40, 50%. That's weird, right? That's an outlier. And there's probably a weird reason why, but you can book higher than 10%.
Sure.
And it's good.
We're 18 to 20.
We don't want to say that.
We're 18 to 20.
So that's one thing. I think one thing that's important to say is like, we're saying 10 times. We're saying we're booking at a rate of 10% because I think that's a good number to shoot for. I think you should be doing that. And I think if you aren't.
If you're below that, I think you're looking at, there's a health problem.
Yeah. There's
with
something else going on.
But for sure.
Yeah. But so, you could say like, I guess we're giving you that conservative 10%. I think we're giving that to the person who doesn't have the numbers, can't look into that and come up with their own. But I think if you could say, hey, I've been doing this for 5 years, I've booked consistently 15%,
or even 25%,
or 25, whatever. Like then I think you can kind of flex these numbers of how many leads you need a little bit. Like if you can prove consistency in your close rate over a long span of time. But I think I would say 3
years.
Times.
If you have 3 years of a consistent close rate.
Yeah.
And
it's probably pretty accurate.
You're probably in a good place, and I think you might be able to find to do it. If you're new, I would look at a 10% close rate as like my standard.
Yep.
Like that's pretty standard in a lot of industries, 10% close rate. If you're less than that, there's probably a problem. Or you're like a massive celebrity wedding filmmaker who, I don't know, you're like Penn Weddings who has like tens of thousands of subscribers on YouTube, and people are expecting to pay $1,000. Yeah. If that's happening to you, most of us, that's not what's happening to you. Most of us are just getting normal inquiries. So I think this is really, we could talk about we should talk about marketing another time. I always feel weird talking about marketing.
It's an odd topic. I don't know.
I have a level of expertise on it, right? But I'm always my opinion is always spend money.
Yeah. Well, I think it's hard because it's just like, it can be so dependent on, I think there's just a lot of variables. That's why it's a hard topic to talk about.
Well, ultimately, a lot of people are not willing to do what it takes to get where they want to go.
Yeah. There's a sacrifice
and I think
to get there.
Like spending the money on the marketing, and they don't believe it. And then the variables there of like you put the money to get the leads, but your marketing sucks or you're not showing it to the right people. Marketing is hard, and I think that's one of the reasons why. I'll tell you this, just as a bonus. If you're looking at this number and you're like looking at your close rate and you're looking at your total. So what is a close rate? If you don't know what that is, I'll just explain it real quick, which is what's the percentage of people who inquire with you? And by inquire, I mean fill out your form, not hit you up in the DMs. Yep. That's not an inquiry. Like a real hard inquiry that actually the person had to invest some time in. That you might even get a phone call out of it, like a real inquiry. So a person inquires, and then you book X percentage of them. That's your close rate. Mm-hmm. Now, the higher close rates are going to be on referrals. Probably the highest close rates are going to be on like planner referrals, relationships where the person. I had a planner.
I think planner and I think planner is the highest for me as far as close rate percentage, followed by
photographer for me.
Mine is probably the next tier for me is photographer or like their friend was a previous client of mine.
The reason why planners and photographers close so high, guys, is because when when that person's asking, the question they ask them is, who do you recommend? Who do you like working with?
Who do you trust?
So they're gonna be like, they're not just booking you, they're booking the experience for the planner and the photographer.
And there's also probably at that point too, there's probably some amount of like pre-qualification on budget.
Yep, for sure. Planners, when I consider doing a big price hike, I called my planner friends.
Yep.
And I say, how would your clients react to X? Would you feel like I was bait and switching you? And I also call our planners and say, we just raised our prices, just so you know, because like for me that relationship is so important because the close rate is so high. I have planners who tell me, which they don't have to do this. I don't even know if it's true, but they'll tell me like, you're the only people we refer.
Yeah.
You're the only people we want to work with. So that happens. And so those close rates are going to just be really, really high. But then there's marketing. Marketing close rates are going to be really low. Like if you're doing a Facebook ad, do not be disappointed by 3%.
Yeah.
Do not I'm saying your composite, your average number when you factor in family referrals, venues, you want it to be 10 to 20%. But you also want to get down to if no planners are referring you or no photographers are referring you, that's a bad sign. That means that you're not. It's
just going to be hard. I mean, it's you're picking the difficult path there, and more importantly, to get things back on track, you're probably doing something wrong.
Yes. Why don't they like you?
Yeah.
People refer people they like. Yeah. The end. They that's how it is. And so I think it really comes down to looking at your numbers. We won't get into all that, but just in general, 10, 20%. The more marketing you do that is paid marketing, the lower your close rate's going to be because those are cold leads, very poorly qualified. And it's okay. I like having some of that because it gives me control over my business. But in general, if you're like, I am never willing to pay for any leads and I don't need to, maybe you flex a little with that number. But whatever it is, you want to have not only the close rate, but you need the marketing. So let's just talk about a little bit about that. My guess is, Bobby, you're not paying for a lot of marketing.
No, I pay for the knot. That's it.
So that's
controversial.
It shouldn't be.
I'm sure I'll hear about it. Yeah.
It shouldn't be
in the comments.
It totally depends on where you are in your market, but in general, I mean, I think it's indisputable that you can make money on the knot. Yeah. I know a lot of people that do it just because it's one other person. Literally, this is what I'll tell you. If you see someone complaining and saying the knot doesn't work, go look at their knot profile and go look at their work and then determine if they're the problem.
Yeah. My knot profile isn't even good. I don't update. I update that every 3 years, I feel like.
Oh,
but it works. So
we slay on the knot.
Yeah, and I will say too, I have booked some of my I have consistently booked. I feel like maybe once a year from the knot, I'll book my top collection. I know there's tons of budget brides on the knot, but there are also people who just use it because it's easy and they have the budget to hire you.
So if I do my leads value, my highest average leads value is the knot.
Okay. Yeah.
My
There you go.
average sale on the knot is $5,000.
Yep. People have money who are on there.
Yes,
you gotta play the game right and whatever, and it is area specific. And I 100% I believe that there are businesses or locations where the knot is not going to work for you.
I'll give you the numbers that we have. Just this isn't composite. This is lead source. Client referral, 31%. Vendor referral, 31%. And this is this is only 1 month. It's probably. I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
Record scratch, rewind noise.
Yeah, I'll start over. Oh man, we have so many leads. There we go.
That was like ASMR for filmmakers, whispering into the mic that you have so many leads. It's like what people dream about.
So we have, these are our lead sources. We have 31% where they don't tell us. They will refuse to answer the question. 30% client referral. Conversion rate. Of the people who are unknown where they don't answer the question, 31% convert. They're probably referrals, most likely.
Yeah.
30% client, 30% vendor, 23% Instagram, 18% other. I have no idea why we even have that. Maybe it's just built into the form. 18% wedding wire, 18% the knot, 70% Google, 9% website. And the lead value.
And those were your
conversion
your close rates. Okay.
Those are my close rates by source.
For each of those.
And then we have our average value, $4,800 for the knot, $4,400 for Instagram, $4,300 for vendor referral, $4,000 for client referral. There's an important reason why that's lower, by the way. That person's going to call because their friend told them how much they spent.
How much it was. Yep.
Other, $4,000, Google, $3,000, wedding wire. We're getting rid of the wedding wire, by the way. $3,500. Like it's it's almost $1,500 less than the knot.
They're the same now, though, aren't they?
They're not. The actual experience and the customer is totally different.
They're owned by the same, but they're separate.
So, like, my point is this. I know my numbers. I know what I can afford to get in. I know what I need to survive. I know all the things I want coming in. I guess maybe the greater point is know your numbers. But if you're wondering what numbers to look at, if you're looking and you're like, yeah, I'm closing at a high enough rate, you know, when you add them all together, I'm closing at a high enough rate and I'm getting the amount of leads. The reason why both numbers are important is like, if I just told you like, hey man, I'm closing 30%, I think we're close to 25% close rate across the board. That's really great, but what if I told you I only got 10 inquiries?
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not the only indicator.
We're getting 600, 700 inquiries a year.
Yeah.
And so the reason why both the numbers work together is like we're trying to sustain a certain business, right? You know, we factor in a lot of things. I don't know what, Bobby, about if you were to like average it out, how many inquiries do you think you're getting a month?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'll bet I get, I mean, obviously different months are different and I don't have the numbers exactly in front of me, but I'll bet that I get anywhere from 20 to 35 in a month.
And you're
on average.
You're a little bit on the higher side price-wise. Yep. So you're going to be kind of definitely closing at a lower rate than maybe some other people. But you probably have never had an issue booking your season.
No, not really. I mean, I think so. I'm at those numbers. I'm getting 240 to like 400 or somewhere in that range of inquiries per year. And I could be off by a little bit, but I'm really only trying to do 15 weddings.
Yes.
And I will do more because sometimes they fall out of a wedding season for me and then I'm okay with it. But like,
you're like, if you don't hit 15, you're getting a little worried.
Yeah. I mean, not so much this year and last year because we all know it was its own
what
thing.
Happened?
But like,
what happened this year and last year?
I actually don't remember. It's weird. I kind of just blacked out. Both years blended together. But yeah, I mean, even like, even in those 2 years, I don't think I did 15 last year. I think I might end up doing 15 this year. I don't know. Like, I'm getting a lot of last minute stuff. But because we just opened here in Minneapolis, or
It's all brutal.
Lifted restrictions.
But regardless, like for you in your business, I think it rings true that you are looking at like closing.
I mean, I don't
similar,
even think I have to close 10%.
The higher your prices are, the lower your close rate can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what important to know. So I'm trying to come up with a number I think that's most people, but like when I think about like we had Alex and Whitney from Sculpting with Time on, they're not going to be closing on 10% of their leads. Yeah. Like they're more maybe
well,
like
makes sense. You know?
Yeah, they're basically celebrity wedding filmmakers, and people are they could have like 30 people a day, people like that reaching out. And so like most of us aren't in that position. We're just generating our solid, steady 10 to 20 a month. That's good. If you get 100 inquiries a year, like that's cool. Like you could definitely sustain 10 weddings a year, like very easily. So let's just double back again and kind of just close out. The 3 milestones you want to be looking at are, have you doubled your gross revenue with your wedding business of what you need to live off of, whether it be your old job or just maybe a number you've determined? Are you losing money by not being full-time and having more time to give into the business? And how do you quantify this? I think you look at your client experiences. If you can just make a list of all the negative things that people have experienced, is the way that you're losing in a competitive environment versus other people, the things that you don't have time to do, or maybe you can literally just say, if I didn't have my full-time job, I would be willing to do 10 more weddings, which would equal X amount of dollars. You're losing money, you might want to do it. And then the last one is, if you're generating enough leads and closing at a high enough rate to replace that income. Yep. If you can say yes, 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 or even yes to 2 of those, and of course the intangible one, which we'll close on really quick, which is, at the end of the day, going full-time in the arts, there's always going to be risk. And so we're not telling you there's a full-time, like there's any foolproof way where you just can know and it's just a safe decision. There's always risk, not just the arts, but anytime you're operating a business and running it on your own. I would say this, like, this is a personal choice, right, Bobby?
Yeah. There's something to be said for the emotional side, or, we'll call it the emotional side, but the non-facts, non-numbers, non-financials of, it might be, I hate my job, or I feel fulfilled in this and I want to chase that, or I'm just at the right time in my life where I can take that risk.
Yeah, it's not even a risk for me. I'm Bobby the pizza man, and anything's better than pizza delivery, and let's freaking do it.
Exactly. Or, hey, I've worked $100,000 salary. I've built up a little nest egg. This is what I want to do. I've done that for a few years. I've got a year and a half of living expenses stashed away for this reason.
Yeah, let's do it.
That's still, that's a safe. It's not a safe bet that you'll succeed, but you're not going to be, living on the streets if it doesn't work out in a year and a half. Yeah. You've approached it smartly. So there are other ways where it makes sense too. But
we offer coaching here at Wedding Film School. If you go to weddingfilm.school/coaching, you fill out a form, small price because we want to make sure we're giving you our full attention and doing a good job. But if you're wondering, like, hey, I'd like a little advice, a little coaching on this, we're glad to help out in any way possible. Of course, there's a Facebook group. I would just say, don't get too dependent, though, on other people. Like, we can do the best we can, but at the end of the day, a Facebook group, a coaching session, all these things are good. Like, if you post your work and everyone tells you, your work is terrible, and like everyone agrees you don't shoot good work, definitely maybe consider that. If we do a coaching session and I'm like, how many inquiries do you have? Oh, I got 20 last year. And I'm like, I don't know, man.
You're not there. Or hey, look, we're not going to tell you you cannot do this. We're going to tell you
I would not do it.
The fail rate there is pretty high, and I would not do it. I would not recommend.
At the end of the day, we talk about this a lot internally. The success rate of wedding filmmakers to make it to year 5, I think, is 10%.
Yeah, it's slim.
It's a freaking.
I don't know what it is, but it's slim.
It's 10%. I'm pretty sure that's the number in our industry. Is like 10 to 20%, somewhere in there, of like every 5 years, people who started it who made it to the 5th year.
Yep.
So it's hard, and you got to know that. You got to know this is a hard thing. Anytime you run your own businesses, there's a range of reasons it can fail. Not even just fail. You may decide not to do it, but at the end of the day, We love doing this, Bobby, right?
Absolutely.
It's a great career path, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who's got the guts, the talent, and so if you're wondering, should I go full time? Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you've checked out our other episodes about building a business plan, because I think that's helpful. And of course, we have wedding filmmakers on the podcast and on the YouTube channel all the time who talk about a range of subjects that have nothing to do with these boring numbers, being creative, just how do they make their own work. So you definitely want to check that stuff out on Wedding Film School's YouTube channel, and of course the other episodes of the Wedding Film School show. We're going to be hanging out really soon in Vegas. Maybe now we're in Vegas, actually, doing a lot of podcasting, hanging out with wedding filmmakers. And also, if you're out in Vegas at WPPI, we'd love to hang out with you. So hit us up on the Instagram. The Wedding Film School show is our channel, or on Facebook or on YouTube, and say, yeah, I'm going to be there, and we'll get plugged in. We'll hang out. Have a great day, guys. See you later.
See ya.